This show is supported by you. Stick around till the ad break to hear more about that. This is Meetup Go for April 23rd, 2025. Keep up to date with the important happenings in the Go community in about 15 minutes per week. I can tell you ahead of time, this time is going to take more. We have too many items on the backlog. I'm Shai Nechmad.
And I'm Jonathan Hall.
We took last week off. I had some things to take care of. And our backlog is very, very, very full.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm in a security startup. And this week is always like the most stressful week because it's 1 week before RSA in San Francisco, which is like the big industry conference. So my LinkedIn has been absolutely like everybody's raising capital, like millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars. And my previous company, Record, raised like 25 million this week. So I'm all like overwhelmed by everything that's going on. Let's talk about like some technical topics about a boring programming language that advances very linearly and is dependable, just to balance out all the, oh my God, they raised such and such, and the tariffs, and oh my God, and like I need some other type of news. Can you help me with that?
So I want to do a shout out to the Go team for having a slow week with proposals. There was virtually nothing happening this week. They had their meeting,
Thank you, Go
a few discussion
team.
Points, nothing we're going to talk about this week. So that gives us a chance to catch up a little bit. Thanks for making our lives easier. I know that's why you did it.
They were like, "Oh no Cup of Go episode. We should stop."
I know that's how it works, right? I mean, we're that important, right? Aren't we? So the first thing before we talk about proposals, which we have several to talk about, the first thing I want to talk about is FineConf 2025. It's happening again in Edinburgh, Scotland, on September 19, 2025, and the CFP is open until June 20. So if you want to speak there, you have a chance to submit a CFP.
Yeah, cool stuff. If you're into the GUI apps in Go kind of thing, they're gonna talk about new features in Fine since last year. They had a big like performance refactor as well, which I assume is going to be highlighted. Just some project examples, tips and tricks. So even if you don't like, if you're not a Fine professional, but you just want to like learn, I think it's going to be a cool way to learn it. June 20th at 6. Oh, that's when the CFP closes. Sorry. September 19th is when the conference is held.
Yeah, definitely.
And of course, Fine is a thing by the friend of the show, Andy. Hey, Andy, what's up? Yeah, let's talk about tests. Tests are important, right? I think one of the things people learn when they get into Go more quickly than other languages is how to like write tests and run the Go test command, right? Because it's like air quotes professional language, and by that I mean it's geared toward like enterprise productivity and like developers who are already on their second language. Normally, setting up tests is pretty easy. You don't have to install anything, etc., etc. But there are always things to improve. This week we have like 3 things that have been improved. First one is pretty simple. It's adding a t.output and being able to log stuff into t-point output. So there's a function in T. T is the interface testing.tb, which is the thing you pass into every test function. So you inject all the testing context into every test function, right? That's very normal. Whether it's a test or a benchmark, which is why it's called TB, which took me a long time to figure out while I thought it was tuberculosis. Yeah, I was watching House at the time.
It's never as simple as tuberculosis on House, though.
It's what's their thing? It's never lupus.
ANA was negative. It's not lupus.
So there's a new function. It's called output. So you do t.output, and it gives you a writer that writes to the same test output stream as if you did t.log. T.log has a few cool benefits, which maybe you don't even realize to start with. But there's a good reason we don't do fmt.print in tests, but we do t.log instead. Do you know any like some of the reasons?
Well, fmt.print just always prints out nonsense. So you get just garbage on your console. Whereas t.log will, by default, only output if the test fails.
Which is super useful for cleaning. Like you open your CI output and you only see the logs that are relevant for the tests that failed, not all of them. I'm actually writing end-to-end tests with Nest.js right now, and I've been itching to implement something similar, which is like only turn on the logger if the test failed. But it's going to take so much effort, where in Go you just like get the t.log for that. But this is for print in the test. There's, by the way, another reason, which was pointed out in this discussion that I didn't think of, but it's actually relevant. What happens if you run multiple tests in parallel? So the output, if you use FMT, you have no idea which line comes from which test, and then you end up doing like, all right, I'll add the test name to every print, and then you're basically on your path to re-implementing it anyway. And one small benefit, but for me that I really, really like, is that it's indented. And it's indented, like if you have test cases within tests, it's indented correctly, which is another nice side benefit, which is useful for, you open the CI output and you want to see what happens quickly. So that's nice. This all already exists, everything we talked about. This proposal is about adding a t.output, which gives you access to the underlying writer. Why is that useful? Because you can pass it to slog as the output, then having logs only printed in failed tests and in their quote unquote right place.
Or not just slog, but any other arbitrary thing that might output useful debugging data, right?
Yeah. The original proposal is because of slog t.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The interesting part is because you do it like this and it's solved from Go side and all the third-party library, it solves all the, finding the caller and the right tests and all of that, just because it happens within the testing package, so you don't have to break any boundaries. A lot of comments here from Daniel Neffin, which we had on the show, but not surprising that we mentioned him on a testing-themed episode. Right? And yeah, it was accepted. Actually, I'm ashamed to admit it was accepted March 12th, and it's been sitting in our backlog since then. But we've been waiting for the correct opportunity to mention it. And there's already a change list. There's already it's not called a pull request in Garrett, right? It's on the change list.
CL, right? Which, is a change list, isn't it?
Could be a change something. But there's a ton of comments here. Unlike most
change list is right.
Change list is right. Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Change list makes more sense than pull request. I never understood pull request, by the way. And I'm deep into Git. I read the source code.
I'm pretty sure pull request is a GitHub thing, not a
Git
of
course.
thing.
That's what I mean, GitHub. Anyway, that's a different discussion. One thing that's very interesting is that there are a ton of discussion on the changelog itself. This is not an obvious pull request at all. They're already at the 21st patch set, and there's a ton of comments. So if you're into that sort of stuff, actually reading code and seeing how it's implemented inside the Go library, which is pretty fun. It's a good way to learn the language, I think. Getting your hands on this PR would be cool. Right now, there aren't the code review is unsatisfying. So, feel free to sign in and share your comments, because there already have been 45 resolved comments. I think this is a good case study. So that's one thing about testing, but you have more improvements.
Yeah, so that's not all. Wait, there's more.
Yeah, that sounds of it. Does this ever happen to you?
So have you ever written a test where you write a file in the test, or maybe you do some directory manipulation or something like that, and then sometimes you want to examine that later, maybe the test fails for random reasons, you don't know why, and you want to look at that output? Mm-hmm. If that describes you, for only $10.99 plus shipping and handling, so the new proposal is to store test artifacts. So the idea is to give us, kind of like the last one, where they gave us just a general, rather than solving the very specific problem of I want my slog output to go somewhere. So the proposal is to add a new function to, once again, TB and F this time, called artifact dir, which returns a string that is the name of a directory. So you can store your artifacts in that directory then, rather than using os.tempdir or something like that. And then those artifacts will become available to you after the test run if you add the new command line flag dash artifacts when you run your tests. In addition to storing those in a random directory, it adds new output to your test case. It adds an artifacts header and the name of the test and the path that those artifacts are stored in per test. So you can go look up those artifacts. So you wouldn't typically run, go test dash artifacts in your CI pipeline, for example. You do that when doing local testing, when you wanted to store those artifacts at a place where you can look at them for debugging purposes.
So what you're saying is I have a test and, it might produce some files and then we compare it to a snapshot. So these are the test artifacts and you want to store them only when it fails, basically?
Yeah.
Cool. This seems like something I would implement if I needed it.
Mm-hmm. I have implemented it before, yeah.
Is it a lot of heavy lifting? Seems like this has been accepted, right?
Yes.
So this might be late joining the discussion, but it seems pretty simple, right?
I don't think it's that conceptually difficult. I don't see a CL yet, so it's still waiting. It's not even targeted for a specific version of Go. So if you want to go implement this, I think you have the opportunity to. But I don't think conceptually it's hard. Like I said, I have implemented the same sort of thing a couple of times. Of course, I wasn't trying to target the general public. I was trying to target my very specific case. So I'm sure I didn't consider all the edge cases.
But there are I don't know, there are just equivalent, packages like Go snaps that give you match snapshot, which save a snapshot directory. This is not necessarily for snapshot testing, right?
Not specifically. It's more general than that.
Yeah.
Maybe you're building a new YAML parser because the old one's been deprecated, for example, and you want to write some YAML to a directory somewhere. And then during the testing, it's not working for some reason. So you want to write that to a directory that you can later examine.
Or maybe the reason this is becoming prominent is because all these LLM apps are so unpredictable. They're inherently indeterministic, right? Because they have probability built into them. Then you want to you run your benchmark, but you want to store the artifact to the side of the actual prompts that return. So you can visually inspect the benchmark without logging every single prompt into we had something similar at Orca.
Yeah.
We had a benchmark of whether the LLM output is okay, but we also stored temporary artifacts. But we used GitHub artifacts for that. And that cost a lot of money. Cool. I'm wondering who's going to actually use it. What I'm assuming that's going to end up happening is people are going to write wrappers that underlying use this thing in there for every single project. But it's not going to become something that everybody uses. Unlike the previous proposal of T output, which basically in every test I would try to shove my logger into T.output, right? Mm-hmm. This seems like a very specific use case thing.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Cool. And it's been accepted, and you said change list. You don't have a change list?
I don't see a change list yet, so it's still waiting for an implementation.
All right. Interesting.
That could be you.
For just $10.99. And if you implement it in a week, we'll also throw in a set of steak knives. Talking about predictability, there's another blog post we wanted to talk about that's related to testing.
Yes, there is. So we're a little bit behind on this one. Also, this came out April 2nd.
April 2nd is fine.
Not too bad, yeah. But this is from the Go team, so one of the official Go blogs. I think they threw out 3 of them at us in the last couple of weeks, and we haven't even gotten to most of them. But this one, more predictable benchmarking with testing.b.loop. Have you written many benchmarks in Go, Shai?
I've not written many, but I've really enjoyed the ones that I have.
Mm-hmm.
I've written one for a JavaScript, V8 engine running within Go, where we try to run JSONata stuff. And the benchmark discovered, I did benchmarking and fuzzing. It was the first time both of these features have been relevant to the same endpoint. Uh-huh. And bro, that was so cool. I felt so smart. Even though it's so easy. You just replace testing T with testing B and add a for loop, and it's just you're done. I felt so smart. I felt like the most elite programmer on the face of the earth. So not a lot, but when I did, I had a lot of fun.
Did you run into any pitfalls of building your benchmark?
Not me, but I've...
Because you're superhuman.
No, I ran it, and then it was this is the number. And I was fine. And then I commented it out because the number was fine.
All right. Well, some people run into problems, and I have too. Basically, it's easy to do your benchmark loop wrong, right? So especially if you have something, and I imagine this might have applied to your situation where you have to do some setup that you don't want to be included in the benchmark, right? So you want to create your V8 engine instance, for example. And
Oh, for sure. Like you set up everything, and then
and then you want to execute that code 10,000 times or whatever, not the setup 10,000 times.
Yes.
So you have to be careful about ordering things and start and stop and all that stuff if you're doing benchmarks, if you want them to be valid. Well, Go 1.24 added a new loop method to the testing.b type that makes a lot of that a little bit easier for you. So rather than doing your own for range over number of things and making sure you call start and stop in the right place, you can just call b.loop and put your loop function inside of that. And it makes sure that the start and stop are handled for you and some of those things. And this blog post is all about the new capability. It's a short blog post. If you ever do or want to do benchmarking in Go, I highly recommend reading this because it will make your benchmarking life easier.
The interesting, like the small thing is that you don't have to remember the reset timer trick anymore, which is after you do your setup, have to call reset timer. But it seems like it solves even more subtle problems with like, the compiler looks at stuff and the stuff looks like dead code and then it inlines it, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Like it benchmarks nothing, basically, which is not what you want.
Right.
And using the loop function, when you use it, it prevents dead code elimination and not allowing inlining and calling the like start and stop timer thing, not start, reset and start, just doing it inside a loop. So it's not introducing any new feature. It's just because you could have done all this stuff with like compiler directives and calling it manually and whatever. Just makes it super simple to write benchmarks and less obvious, in a more obvious way.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I like it.
This is now the preferred way to write benchmarks, right?
Yes, this is the preferred way to write benchmarks now.
So do you think the modernized linter should support it now as well? Is that a thing someone needs to remember to do?
So the modernizer one, if I recall, is actually writing simple rewrite rules. I don't think that would apply here.
Why? You look at all the places where you do for range b.n and you replace it with b.loop. Super simple.
Is it literally that simple? It might be.
Well, some linter rules should warn people about it somehow.
You should be able to detect that you have a benchmark that's not using b.loop. That would be easy. But automatically rewriting it might not be as easy, at least in all cases.
Well, there might be a linter already, and I'm like just thinking about a great idea that someone like already implemented. Wouldn't be the first time.
Let's talk about popularity.
All right. How popular were you in high school, and how was that?
I was the most popular of the two nerds in high school.
Yeah, that's why I'm so good. That's why I'm so good in programming, just because I was so popular. No, we're talking about popularity of programming languages, of course. The TIOBE index they publish every now and then, so it's not like a huge news. I just found it interesting with the current macroeconomic conditions like in the world. And this is not an economics podcast, but I'll try to use like vaguely technical terms and I would say it's bad, right? Like if I had to just really dig deep and use the technical terms from the financial analyst market, it's like not great. It impacts this index as well. The TIOB index is like which language is most popular. And they try to add some context over why this is happening. And basically the ratings show that the most popular language is Python, unsurprisingly.
By a big margin, too.
Yeah. And it's increased a ton, like by 6%. So now it's 23% popular. This is kind of vague, right? Like the definition, you can read through it. Doesn't mean that any 23% of code in the world is in Python.
What's the TLDR, though? Is this like trying to measure developer sentiment about the language, or?
So it actually, it doesn't care about sentiment at all. Things can be really high if people don't like them. It's just looking at search engines like Google and seeing how many people are looking for a thing, which is, by the way, interesting because I would think that so much of programming language searches are not from like web searches at all. They're from LLMs. I don't search for things in like that are JavaScript related right now because I'm writing in JavaScript. I just use Copilot. Now it does some web searches every now and then, not well enough to actually generate fucking useful code, but it does web searches every now and then. But mostly it doesn't. And this doesn't include that. So, take it with a grain of salt. But high level, Python is really high up, followed by C++, C, Java, C#, JavaScript, and then Go at number 7. And all of these have been pretty solid in their places. Like they haven't really changed. C and C++ switched, but like who cares?
They're the same language anyway, aren't they? Just like Java and JavaScript.
I would say that Java being like 10% and JavaScript being 3.7% seems that number seems fishy.
Yeah.
The interesting part is that according to what they're saying, common languages are becoming more common. So like there's a very strong consolidation in the market right now. So there isn't a lot of room for example, languages like Ruby, because overall what they claim is that the top 20 languages cover 83% of the market, which was, again, this is search engine evaluation, but it used to be 75%. So the more common languages are becoming more common. So the market is like defensive and preferring like more proven technology to new technologies. But this is kind of weird because I see Visual Basic at number 8 and, like Scratch at number 12 makes sense to me because students use it, but nobody makes money out of Scratch, right?
And that's right below Fortran.
Yeah, so I think this is very heavily influenced by people like students and things like that. I would assume that C is high up because a lot of universities teach it as well, and not just like because a lot of people write actual code in it. But it's also relevant, right? What people search, like their intro to programming and things like that.
I'm just surprised that JavaScript isn't so much higher.
Yeah, actually, maybe because it's JavaScript and like JS and TypeScript, and they don't like calculate it correctly. Yeah, and there are some weird things here. Bash is considered a programming language, and TypeScript is a separate thing from JavaScript. Although in reality, it's not like it's the same language with typing hints. So it's, again, this index is not very.
Logo is above PowerShell. That's weird.
We have a lot of questions about this index. The interesting part is that Go was popular, stayed popular, is still number 7, like at a solid, person's second language, and that there's a lot of consolidation. And I think, I don't know, you tell me, but on the one hand, Go is like new-ish and modern-ish. Mm-hmm. But when I look at the technology landscape right now, to me, Go falls definitely in the camp of, there's not a lot of money in the market, to go with Go, right? And not with like some new language or some new tech.
Go is definitely the newest of the top 10 languages by a long shot.
So what I'm saying is that if there's going to be even more consolidation and like no company is going to be like, I'm going to work in a new programming language, I'm not going to allow it, I just want to use like proven tech. Is Go already in the camp of proven tech because it has enough, like, I guess the word I'm looking for is pedigree.
I think so. I mean, but I have a biased opinion on that. So as the host of a Go podcast.
This actually, as a podcast host, we would benefit from being like, this is super exciting. I don't know if this language is going to live or whatever. Like if it wasn't so quote unquote boring. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, this index seems to think that Go falls in it's old and it's like mature enough to be considered consolidatable, and it also raises a lot of questions about the nature of its data as well. So take it with a grain of salt.
I'd say kudos to Go for winning a bunch of imaginary internet points.
Yeah, that's really important.
Welcome to our break. Thanks for sticking around this long, listening to the news. Quick updates on a couple of things. Shai is doing a San Francisco meetup with 6 people. And maybe you could be number 7. Tell us the details on that, Shai.
May 28th, 2025 at 5 p.m. We're going to do one live podcast recording with this new mic that I'm using right now. Mm-hmm. So I hope that's going to work out fine. And there are already 6 attendees. we're looking for two things. We're looking for three things. One, if you work in the San Francisco Bay Area and your company has a nice office in San Francisco, please let us sit there for a while. Worst case, I'll like grab a WeWork room, but that's going to be kind of lame. And there's a talk to be determined. If you want to do a talk at the meetup, if you have like a topic you want to share, or even like practice your presentation before showing it to like a real meetup, that would be cool. And we're just going to meet up, do some schmoozing, do the podcast recording, do another talk, and maybe like go out to drinks after. 5 to 7 Pacific Daylight Time, May 28th.
Awesome.
So about a month from now.
Also in Meet Space, I have agreed to speak at the next Atlanta Go Meetup, which I think will be May 7. Waiting for official confirmation. We'll mention it on the show when it happens. But if you want to meet me, possibly again, if you already have, that would be the opportunity to do that. If you don't like Meet Space, you can also participate with the show by going to cupago.dev. There you can find swag, which we can send to you in Meet Space. You can join our Patreon. We have one new member this week. Big shout out to Liz Lamb. Thanks for supporting the show. And you can also leave a rating or review on Spotify or iTunes or Apple Music or whatever it's called these days, or wherever you happen to listen to this podcast. That's a big help. And of course, share the episode with a friend, a colleague, a student, anybody else who might be interested in learning about Go. And we'd appreciate it. You can also join us on Gopher Slack. If you're on the Gophers Slack, our channel is Cup of Go. That's Go Upcase. Join us there. We have over 500 people and some pretty lively discussions sometimes about topics related to Go. So join us there. Did I miss anything, Shai?
There's one thing I want to add. Our Patreon has been going on for a while, and some people have been a member of it for a pretty long time. So I want to shout out Jens, Frederick, Andy, Jamie, Matthias, Just, or I assume it's Just, Josh, who's going to be at the meetup, Leonid, Robert Burke, Will Roden, Adelina Simeon, Carl Skews. Like, there are a lot of people here who have been around for a while. We really, really appreciate it. Thanks a lot. I almost like sort of want to say, how about you downgrade to a free for a while? But it actually does help support the show. We don't make money out of this. We're just like paying for, maintenance and our time. And we're pretty much still covering it. So we really, really appreciate the people who have been around here for a while. So there are ways to support the podcast directly if you like the show. Other than doing the podcast, which we don't do full time. We do like an hour a week and maybe an hour of research a week, which we do separately. And if we have an interview, that's like another extra hour. We have other like jobs and companies and things that we do. And we would like your help with that as well. So how about you start?
Sure. So I have a contract ending the end of this month. So that means that starting next month, I'll be free to find a new contract. If you could use a fractional gopher on your team, someone to help with some architectural Go-related work, hit me up. I'd love to.
Fractional gopher. Fractional
gopher. Isn't that a good title? I don't know what that says to people, but I think it feels fun.
None of these words are in the Bible. So yeah, try to hire Jonathan. I would think if you need a fractional gopher or a professional LinkedIn troll, he's pretty good at both. At Opsin, the startup where I work, if you're in the San Francisco Bay Area, we're looking for engineers to join us. It's not Go, unfortunately. So I don't know how much this show is a good fit for hiring these people. But hey, if enough of us join, maybe we'll be able to rewrite the whole thing. Although probably
once Go reaches 25% of imaginary internet points, maybe it'll be possible.
So if you want to join Opsin, you can reach out or if you know someone who's a good fit.
I think we should do a lightning round and then call this a show. What do you say?
Let's go. Lightning round. All right. First thing on the lightning round, it's for me. Do you know truffle hog?
I know what truffles are and I know what hogs are. I know they're related.
So there's a project called Truffle Hog, which you should probably in every project, there are a few things you always want to set up, right? Like Golang CI-Lint, we talked about it in recent episode. That's an always go-to. At some point, some of your projects have to be SOC 2 certified, or you have to have some stuff on them. At that point, reaching for Truffle Hog makes sense. It's a secret detector. It finds creds in your code, but unlike most secret detectors, which end there and have a whole a ton of credentials, but maybe it's just test credentials or whatever, it also verifies them, which is really cool. They have a new release from 2 days ago. It's like 100% written in Go. And, the new release is like, quote unquote, a small release. But, these are the sort of projects which have just a lot of things going on. So, for example, they fixed the DigitalOcean detector. So if you use DigitalOcean and you're worried about leaking the DigitalOcean credentials, they implemented this in the latest release. This is just like one example, and they also do like proper security releases. So pretty cool. They just have a really deep list of detectors, and I've used it. It runs super fast and has a lot of integrations, like in CI. You can run it Recommit. You can do blah blah blah. Very good stuff. So if you don't use it yet, I recommend it. It looks pretty good. I'm like considering setting it up like today, just because it seems pretty easy.
My lightning round item is an update from a past item in a past interview. We had Joe Tsai on the show, a year and a half ago, talking about JSON v2. It's been officially accepted to include JSON v2 in Go 1.25 as an experiment. So you can still use the existing GitHub repo if you want to play with it in Go 1.24 or even older versions of Go. But starting with Go 1.25, if you enable Go experiment equals JSON v2, you will have the new official JSON v2 package from the standard library available to you, run your CI and experiment with, which probably means that in Go 1.26, it will be a full-on official package available for everybody without the experiment. Of course, that depends on the results of the experiment, but as long as this has been coming, I don't imagine there will be any major surprises that would prevent it from making it to Go 1.26. So I'm excited.
Cool. New version of JSON. Why don't they just use YAML? No, I'm kidding.
Now there's an idea I'm sure they hadn't seriously considered.
Last thing on the lightning round. We talked about this. I'm not sure if this is proper news for the show, but I'm going to share it anyway. There is a new Slack CLI, which is not for using Slack. It's for creating Slack applications from the command line. And it's written in Go. So it's new and it's written in Go, where I think the previous ones were just like JavaScript or whatever. Mm-hmm. So it's Go news in the sense that someone did something using Go. Mm-hmm. But unless you're like super into integrating with Slack or something like that, you want to write the library that wraps this CLI, this will not affect your like day-to-day Go programming. However, the new package looks good. Like the CLI looks good. I played around with it a little bit. So if you were hesitant about, should I like create this new Slack app for my company, this automation that reports X to Y? This makes it slightly easier. So you can check out the new Slack-CLI Slack to create this new like Slack applications, which could like ask questions, do mentions and messages, things like that. Yeah, it is just written in Go. So I thought it was worth mentioning.
It's perfect for lightning round.
Exactly. And the documentation looks pretty good as well, which is super important for this sort of thing.
Pretty cool. I think that's it.
Thanks a lot, everyone, for listening. We appreciate you all being here. Stay safe out there. Have a good one. And we'll see you next week. Goodbye.